The sun was setting, its golden rays spilling across the quiet suburban neighborhood like liquid amber. The streets were bathed in a warm, honeyed light, and the faint chirping of evening birds filled the air. Rebecca sat by the window of her modest home, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of a half-empty teacup. The world outside seemed so peaceful, so still, but inside, her heart was a storm of emotions. Her gaze drifted to the horizon, where the sky melted into hues of orange and pink. It was a beautiful sight, one that should have brought her comfort. But instead, it only reminded her of the day that had changed everything. The day she had walked down the aisle without her parents by her side. She could still see it so clearly. The soft rustle of her wedding gown as she moved, the gentle hum of the organ playing in the background, the sea of smiling faces turning to watch her. But there, in the front row, where her parents should have been, were two empty chairs. The memory was like a knife twisting in her chest, a wound that had never fully healed. Rebecca took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them in her lap. The weight of that day, of all the days that had led up to it, pressed down on her shoulders. She had spent so many years trying to make sense of it, trying to understand why her parents had chosen to miss one of the most important moments of her life. And now, as she sat there, the words began to spill out, soft and hesitant at first, but growing stronger with each passing moment. "It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But when I walked down the aisle, the two people I thought would be there to cheer me on, my parents, were nowhere to be found. And my sister? Well, her absence wasn't exactly a surprise, but their absence, that stung. It stung more than I ever thought it would." She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. The memories came flooding back, each one more vivid than the last. The years of being overlooked, the constant comparisons to her sister, the endless ache of never feeling good enough. It was all there, etched into her heart like scars. Rebecca's childhood was defined by one word: Meline. From the moment her younger sister could walk, she was the star of the family. Meline won every spelling bee, every science fair, every talent show. By high school, she was class president, valedictorian, and prom queen. In college, she became a model, her first professional headshot framed and hung above the family fireplace. Rebecca, on the other hand, was the quiet one, the one who preferred books to beauty pageants, coding to catwalks. She was proud of her sister, but she couldn't help feeling invisible. Her parents' attention was always on Meline, and Rebecca learned early on that no matter how hard she tried, she would never measure up. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" It was a refrain Rebecca had heard her entire life. Her mother signed her up for diets she didn't want to be on, enrolled her in workout classes she hated. "Meline never struggles with her weight," her mother would say. "If you just put in a little more effort, you could look like her." By the time Rebecca reached high school, she stopped trying to impress them. But deep down, she still wanted their approval. She still wanted to matter. Rebecca's life began to change when she met Alex at a tech conference. He was different from anyone she had ever known. He saw her, not the second daughter, not the less successful one, but just her. He loved her dry sense of humor, her passion for coding, and yes, even her body. For the first time in her life, Rebecca felt like she was enough. Their relationship blossomed over the years, and when Alex proposed, Rebecca said yes without hesitation. She called her parents to share the news, expecting them to be happy for her. But instead, there was silence. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" her mother finally asked. "Maybe you should work on your weight before the wedding." Her father didn't say much at all. And Meline? She wasn't even engaged yet. But their mother had already planned her entire wedding on Pinterest. At the engagement party, Alex overheard Rebecca's parents talking to Meline on the phone. She was crying. "This wasn't the plan," her mother said. "We never expected Rebecca to get married first." That's when Rebecca realized her wedding wasn't about her. It was about them, about their perfect family image. And she was ruining it. The day of the wedding was beautiful. Rebecca walked down the aisle in a stunning A-line gown, her eyes scanning the crowd. But the front row seats were empty. Her parents hadn't come. The pain of their absence was like a physical ache. When she saw those empty chairs, when she couldn't have a father-daughter dance, it hurt. But she didn't let it ruin her day. She couldn't. Not when she had Alex by her side. After the wedding, Rebecca tried to talk to her parents. She wanted answers, but instead of apologizing, they accused her of not sending them an invitation. They said she was careless, that she had left them out on purpose. Rebecca didn't argue. What was the point? They were never going to see her side. Now, Meline was engaged, and her parents were planning the wedding of the century. But something had changed. The family wasn't buying their excuses anymore. They had seen the truth, and for the first time, Rebecca's parents were facing the consequences of their actions. At a family gathering, Rebecca's parents were surrounded by relatives, their faces tense. One by one, the family members walked away, leaving them alone. Rebecca had changed too. She was no longer the little girl who craved their approval. She had built a life with someone who loved her for who she was. And that was enough. It was more than enough. Rebecca finally confronted her parents. She told them everything, how their favoritism had hurt her, how their absence at her wedding had broken her. And do you know what they said? "We always treated you equally." The words hit Rebecca like a punch to the gut. She realized then that they would never change. They couldn't even see what they had done. So she let them go. For the first time in her life, she felt free. Rebecca and Alex sat on their porch, laughing together as they packed for a weekend getaway. The sun set behind them, casting a warm glow over the scene. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, Rebecca thought. It's realizing you never had to hold on in the first place. She had found her family now, and it wasn't the one she was born into. It was the one she had chosen.